Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Leon Master. Welcome back to another Overwatch League news video. And today, guys, there is a lot of stuff to go over. Last night I wasn't able to record a video, so now I'm taking the chance I can to record a video. And I know today I'm recording this, there's going to be more stuff happening today. So we're going to go and talk about the Houston Outlaws, the Guangzhou Charge, the Chengdu Hunters, and London Spitfire finally confirming some stuff. And like I said, Shock as well. So we're going to talk about the Houston Outlaws real quick. They did a lot of changes yesterday, and I don't know if this is fully going to happen yet, but Dante, Mecco, they said they're LFT right now, but that doesn't really necessarily mean they are fully released yet, so we're just going to talk about that as well. So as you see on your screen right now, you have both Dante and Mecco both having, the kind of same tweet, where Dante's tweets like, my contract with Outlaws is expiring, I will be a free agent for the upcoming season. This doesn't necessarily mean I won't be on the Outlaws next year, but I'm free to see more options, and Mecco's kind of like the same thing, my contract with Houston Outlaws is expiring, and I will be a free agent so I can explore all offers. I really hope they actually don't end up going anywhere. I think the route Houston Outlaws is currently going is pretty good for them, actually. We'll talk about the new coaches as well, mostly the new coach, I should say. It's Junk Bunk from the SF Shock. We're going to still talk about what teams they could go to that they could easily impact as well. So we're going to start off with Dante as well. Also, I want to talk about a season real quick. He did great, best player on the Outlaws next to maybe Mecco, and we knew he was going to be good. He was good in Season 2, good in Season 3, and Shock even in Season 1, if you want to say, when he got to play. So all around, I think Dante's a great player. Hopefully he does stay on the Outlaws if the Outlaws want to do good this season, and it looks like they're really going to be good with the coaching changes they have, but hopefully they have enough money for players they want to get as well, because so far it looks like all their money has gone to coaching, but I don't know their money situation. If we're looking at previous stuff, Houston Outlaws probably does not have the best money situation, but it's all up in the air. We don't really know yet. Now, when it comes to Dante and what teams he could easily impact, I wrote down 5 teams he could easily go to. Maybe you guys have some other options as well, but here they are on your screen: is the Atlanta Reign, the LA Valiant, the LA Gladiators, the Toronto Defiant, and also the Vancouver Titans. Atlanta Reign, I feel like he would just be good beside Edison or maybe even Urster. He's a good flex DPS that can fill those roles Atlanta's really struggling with in general. So I think Dante could go there and make that team honestly way better than it is right now. Even though we thought this team, the Atlanta Reign, was going to be good this season, wasn't the case. Then on the LA Valiant, I bet Dante costs a bit more than what LA Valiant want, but it depends on what the situation is, like I said, with a lot of teams. So LA Valiant with Dante on this team, him and KSP, him and KSF, whatever the duo would be, it would be absolutely crazy with him on this team. Also with his flexibility that he brings to the roster. Same thing goes with almost every team, so I don't want to repeat myself. LA Gladiators, they have Kevster and Birdring. I could see Dante probably fitting into that roster. Depends on what, meta, what role he would be playing. Then the Toronto Defiant, it's obvious. I think him beside Logix or whoever would be better. I think he could be better than Agilities in numerous cases as well when it comes to projectile heroes. So in general, he would just be better than Agilities when it comes to flex DPS. Then you have Vancouver Titans. It's obvious enough they already don't have a flex DPS, so might as well get Dante onto this roster to play beside Dalton or maybe even Shockwave if Shockwave stays on the Vancouver Titans. We don't know yet when it comes to Shockwave. So I think him would just be an obvious one to be on Vancouver Titans if the Vancouver Titans has enough money for him. And you would bring that flexibility to the roster, like I've said, with Genji, Tracer even, and then like Junkrat, all the projectile heroes Dante plays, he could easily bring that to Vancouver Titans and make that team so much better. But I think there's more things Vancouver Titans needs to really worry about other than DPS, because I think they're somewhat set on it, but they do need to flex DPS at the end of the day. Now let's talk about Mecco, and I think there is some teams Mecco could do really good on. Hopefully he does stay on Houston. But I did write down 5 teams as well for Mecco, and the teams I wrote down are Slow Dynasty, Guangzhou Spark, Atlanta Reign, Dallas Fuel, and the Toronto Defiant. I think Toronto Defiant will be always mentioned, so just keep that in mind when it comes to many players. When it comes to the Slow Dynasty, they still don't really, I don't know how to explain this in a certain way. They've only really used 2U to play off tank, and he's been a great off tank, but if they end up getting rid of 2U, which hopefully they don't, they get Mecco and hopefully Marvel. Even though he had a pretty good playoffs and grand finals, they still get a solid off tank. Michelle has not played in a hot minute, so might as well maybe get Mecco if possible, but I don't know. It all depends what happens with the Soul Dynasty if they release players in general, so it just all has to go the right way for Soul Dynasty. Guangzhou Spark, I think Mecco, if we look at this season, Mecco is probably better than Kyokyo in my opinion, maybe even Rhea, even though when Rhea didn't play as much. I think Mecco could be better than them, but then again, Kyokyo, depending on what the situations are, Kyokyo could be better than Mecco in certain situations, so it just depends on what happens there. Atlanta Reign, he's just better than Hawk and Fried, that's all it is. Dallas Fuel, he's better than Note, and I think it would just be a huge upgrade to the roster, and it's obvious for Toronto Defiant, he's insanely better than Nevix by miles, so that's all I really got to say. Nothing much really go like in depth with these teams, except for like Soul Dynasty if it goes the right way. They're all just better than the current offense they have on those teams. That's all I gotta say. Now onto the big thing with the Houston Outlaws as well. If you guys did not see, Jungkook did get released from the Shock and joined the Houston Outlaws, which is absolutely crazy. Did not expect the Houston Outlaws to be the team Jungkook was going to, but I think there's a lot of good signs when it comes to this. So you have Jungkook going to the Houston Outlaws, being released from the Shock, and Shock did also release Arachne, or Arachnid, I don't know how to say his name, but they released him as well, the assistant coach, and Jungkook going to Houston Outlaws, and I think there's some good signs here. And the reason I'm saying this because if you think about Team USA 2019, the coaching staff was Harsha, Jungkook, and Arrow. And I'll talk about Arrows as well. I think Arrow would actually be a good fit for the Outlaws now that they have Jungkook and Harsha. And more things with Jungkook, this could lead to more Shock players joining the Houston Outlaws. So we have Dante. They have to sign Dante back, I feels like. Who knows if that will be the case. Dante comes to Houston. Let's say theoretically, Moth also joins Houston. That adds some more synergy. And let's say Super joins Houston as well, because there's a lot of Shock stuff here. Harsha was on Shock in Season 1 working with Dante. Jungkook has been in the Shock since Season 1 working with Dante, Moth, and Super. They've all worked together, and I could easily see Houston signing Super if they do get Super. Like I said, if Super goes free agent, but then again, I think Super is good on the Shock. I think in general, Super has voiced his opinions a lot that he wants to stay on the Shock. There's been so many things that Super is going to stay on the Shock, but like I said, for fun, we're going to see if Super will be on the Houston Outlaws. Then you get Moth, who is a free agent right now, looking for other offers and seeing what's going to happen for this team the next coming years. I would not be surprised if Moth did choose the Houston Outlaws to play with Dante again, to work with Harsha and the work of Jungkook. And now to talk about the coaches, we already know how good Jungkook is. I was worried if Harsha coming this offseason, but it looks like they're going to keep Harsha to work with Jungkook, and he is going to be a co-head coach with Harsha as well. Jungkook and Harsha are going to be co-head coach. And if they are going to sign another coach, honestly, Houston Outlaws fans, I would not be surprised if they did sign Arrow. I think Arrow, you know, I had questions if he was going to be in the Overwatch League again, but I think now would be a good time for Arrow to work in the Overwatch League as a coach once again on the Houston Outlaws, but as a assistant coach. Don't make him have the head coach. Don't make him control everything. Make him be an assistant coach or the GM. Make Arrow work in a bit of a smaller area instead of a huge all-around head coach area, because I think that's up to Jungkook and also Harsha. You make Arrow work on the side, and that fits everyone's stuff, and they've also worked with each other before. I think that would be a good coaching staff for the Houston Outlaws moving forward, but that is all, you know, if it works in case. And also if they get Moth, if they keep Dante, and who knows if they get Super. Imagine Super, Mecco, Moth, and Dante all on one team, then whatever the off sport and the hit scan DPS is going to be, or the other DPS in general is going to be. I think that would sound pretty nasty on paper for the Houston Outlaws, but it all depends on what they get. Then again, they could sign the newest Shock coach that just got released as well, but it all depends. While we are talking about the Shock's newest, coach that got released, here's the tweet right here. It was only one season, but you made an impact that will last forever. Thank you for unforgettable championship season, Arachne. I think that's how you say his name, so that's how I'm going to say it from now on. I think he was a good coach. He came to the Shock, and he still did good with Press beside his side, Jungkook as well. He worked with Talent Esports as also a head coach, which could help him as well going to a different team. Obviously, there's many teams that would take him right now in general. You have Dallasville, you have Toronto Defiant, you have the bottom tier teams that would love to have him right now as a head coach. That's all I really want to say. Nothing much in depth to say. He is a good coach. We see it from his past before he was on the Shock, and now that he's been on the Shock, he has more experience in the Overwatch League. I think he could do good as a head coach on an Overwatch League team as well. Now let's talk about the Guangzhou Charge. They made a lot of releases late at night as well. So the Guangzhou Charge released 4 players. They released Chara, Neptuno, Crystal, and Wea. I think that's how you say his name, all in the Charge. Very shocking to see Chara, but everyone else not so much. And it is kind of funny to see Crystal get released instantly, even though they had a plan of him. Even Nero said they had a plan of him next season. And I think they saw that he isn't really a reliable player at this point anymore, which sucks because Crystal's a great player, but he really ruined everything what he did to the Hangzhou Spark and moving forward. But let's go ahead and talk about Chara, Neptuno. I'm going to talk about those two for teams. I don't think Crystal's going to find a team, and if Wea does find a team, it's probably going to be in Contenders because we did not really watch him at all in the Guangzhou Charge. And I'll say one thing about Crystal. If he does go back in the Overwatch League, it's got to be Chengdu Hunters. It feels like I think he'd do great on that team as well, besides Jinmu, and maybe leave, whatever's going to happen to the Chengdu Hunters DPS situation, because they did also release players as well, and we're going to talk about Chara and Neptuno right now. So when it came to Chara, finding teams for him, I think Chara all around had a pretty good season compared to last season when Season 2 was very poor from him. I think he was one of the worst main sports in the league, not awful, but he was down there for sure. He had a good comeback season this year. I know he kind of fell off somewhat near the end of the season, but he still did good, and there is still teams that wrote down for him, 5 as well. And it is the LA Gladiators, the Florida Mayhem, Toronto Defiant, and the Dallas Fuel, and the Washington Justice. It's obvious for LA Gladiators, obvious for Florida Mayhem. Toronto Defiant, he's just better than Cruz. Dallas Fuel, I think Chara could be better than Paintbrush if we look at it statistically in general. And Washington Justice, I would not be surprised if Chara did go on the Justice. I think he'd be a good fit as well and be better than Arc in general. I think it's obvious for LA Gladiators and Florida Mayhem. They don't have main sports, and Gladiators is doing a full revamp, it looks like, as well. So Chara on the Gladiators would be nice to see. Also, I think he could fit the Florida Mayhem as well. So I think the two teams in general he could fit is the Florida Mayhem and the Justice. I think he could really fit those two teams, but I would not be surprised if he went anywhere else. And now on to Neptuno. Neptuno did not really play at all this season. He played for like, what, 4 or 5 weeks, and he did play on those weekends full time, basically. And it was very hard to find a team for him. The only team I have written down for him is, yes, it is only one. I could really only find one team for him. It is the Toronto Defiant. I think he could fit this team in general as well, and he's just better than Cruz. He's just better than Cruz in general. He goes to this team, brings his, play style, his shot calling, everything he has, brings it to Toronto Defiant and makes the team better in general. I think he can fit this team, but it's the only team I could really find. But I would not be surprised if he went to another team, based off of more releases, more free agents throughout the season. That all depends. Now, I'm going to be talking about something I did not expect. This happened actually today as I'm recording this. LA Gladiators release OG. And they tweeted this out. Today we mutually part ways with OG. We wish him the best moving forward and know his impact will be felt in LA forever. This one kind of shocked me a little bit when I saw it on Twitter. I did not expect OG to be released from the LA Gladiators after what he said to Dallas Fuel, and now he's on the LA Gladiators. It's crazy to see, but who knows? Maybe this whole coaching stuff did end up doing bad for the Gladiators, and maybe OG didn't like the coaching staff, this year compared to the Dallas Field coaching staff, because you keep in mind, OG stayed 2 years for the Field, and he stayed only 1 year for the Gladiators, and LH Cloudy saying the things he said about the coaches. Maybe OG has the same opinions with him. It's crazy to think about what happened with the whole LA Gladiators. We all thought the coach staff was going to be good this year. Did not be the case. OG now being released is absolutely crazy. Now I'm going to talk about OG's season real quick before I talk about the teams he could go to. I think OG kind of had the same season he's had with Dallas Fuel these past couple seasons. We expected him to do good, but at the end of the day, he just didn't perform. He still had his moments when he did perform, especially near the end of this season. He did actually perform consistently on a solid level, but before, I would say maybe half of the season, he was still inconsistent and jumping up and down a lot when it came to his play style. He was up and down still when it came to the season in summary, but he did perform at a better level, I would say, probably than Dallas Fuel when it came to season 2. So that's all I gotta say about OG. Now when it comes to the teams he could join, there is a decent amount. I have wrote down 8 teams he could go to, and the teams I wrote down is the Paris Eternal, Guangzhou Charge, LA Valiant, the Atlanta Reigns, the Toronto Defiant, Houston Outlaws, Washington Justice, and the Boston Uprising. Now the reason I wrote Boston Uprising down, and hear me out before anyone starts going to the comments, it is because on his LFT thing he said he wants to challenge, or he wants to challenge himself kind of thing. And if he wants to do a challenge, that would be Boston Uprising, but I'm really just kind of mentioning Boston because of that tweet. It was kind of like a little bit of something saying he wants to challenge this year, but that could be Boston, but who knows. But Paris Eternal, I don't think it's likely, but I still wanted to write it down in case Paris Eternal does not get Muse, but I really think they will get Muse and just promote him from their academy team. Maybe Paris Eternal will get rid of Ben Best and they get OG. I think OG on Paris would fit really well, actually, especially that coaching staff. Imagine OG under that coaching staff, Paris Eternal's coaching staff of Rush and everything they have. Obviously, we said the same thing last year of LA Gladiators of OG, but I think Paris Eternal, with the players they have and the coaches they have, that would turn OG into a top tier main tank 100%. I wouldn't see anything bad with that. And Guangzhou Charge, I think he's just better than Rio. I feel like, especially if OG was in that team environment, I guess you could say, around those players that he could be around, and like someone, I guess, new coaches that would be brought to that team since they don't have coaches anymore. But I think he could fit the Guangzhou. I think he'd be better than Rio. LA Valiant, if he does want to be on a challenge, like I said, LA Valiant's a little bit cheap. I don't know that they're going to be cheap next season, but I think he could be better than Dreamer all around. Depends on what happens. Then you have Atlanta Reign. He's just better than Gator so far as we've seen. I think maybe Pogbo could be better than OG. It just depends. Toronto Defiant, they were going to get OG. Toronto Defiant was supposed to get OG this season, but that did not happen. Maybe he'll run it back and go on Toronto Defiant. Houston Outlaws, they really don't have a main tank right now, so he would just fit right now. He would be better than anyone, better than Hydration at least, because they still have Hydration on the roster making this video. And then on the Washington Justice, he's just better than Roar. And I think OG and Janu with Decay would be insanely good for Washington Justice. With also the whole moves they're going to do, I think it would be crazy to see that. And with Boston, it's like I said, I don't see it happening at all, but since he said the challenge thing related, I would not be surprised if he went to Boston. That would be great to see, especially the route Boston's going towards. They got Lori, probably the next best head coach, it seems like. They probably get Aztec, the next best Ossport, and they'll get I'm 37. It's I'm 37. And then you get OG. I think that'll be great to see, but I don't see Boston getting OG in the slightest. But if they do, there must have been some talks, for sure. I have two more things to talk about today. It is the Chengdu Hunters releasing two players. I'm not really going to talk about them that much. It is Bacon Jack and Ating. Nothing much to really say here. Bacon Jack did play a decent amount this season. I don't see him getting back in the Overwatch League unless he goes to Chinese contenders or anywhere in contenders in general. And the same thing goes for Ating. He did somewhat alright this season. I wasn't really impressed with Ating this season, but I could easily see him go back to contenders or wherever, Chinese contenders, any contenders in general for him. That's really it. Nothing much to really say about these guys. They did alright. They weren't insanely good. They weren't good, I would say, but they did alright. That was it for really anything new with news. Now we're talking about stuff that's kind of getting confirmed by the London Spitfire. They have released, although Babel, Cleston, Hailey, Jihoon, Krillin, and Shui, and this obviously means Bernard, Glister, Sanguinar, Fuse, and JMac have most likely found teams. They're just going to trade them now to the teams they're going to. Bernard will get traded to another team. Glister will get traded to another team. Sanguinar, JMac, and Fuse was surprising. I was not impressed with Fuse at all this season, and I'm surprised he did not get released, but hey, he's going to a different team with what it seems like, because they are keeping those players to trade, most likely for money, so they can sign other players as well coming into this next season. Like we already know, they are going to get British Hurricane, so at this point, these guys are going to go to a different team, get traded, maybe get a trade back with some other players, like, Oni God's on Dallas Fuel, maybe they'll trade someone for Oni God, and then the list goes on with other players as well. Anyways, guys, that is it for me. That was a lot to go over for news that happened while I'm recording this. Is all that happened today, so obviously I do know, at least I think there will be, I'm assuming, there's going to be more news going on throughout the day, and that will be a video, hopefully, in the next morning, the normal times as well. But if you guys want to stay tuned with all the Overwatch League news, thank you guys so much as well for 3K subscribers. I did not expect the whole release video of Houston Outlaws of Florida Man to pop off like it did. I remember that night I went to bed with like 2.86K if I remember. Then I woke up with like 2.929 or something like that, and then throughout the day we hit 3K. Now we're on 3.03K. Thank you guys so much. It's absolutely crazy. I did not expect to actually pop off that much, so like I said already, if you guys want to see more Overwatch League news, I will be hopefully doing Overwatch League tier list sometime this month as well. I need to catch up on some VODs just in case I get some more opinions back as well. And that's going to be it, guys. Don't forget to join my Discord as well. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch, and don't forget to hit that bell, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.